Hello and welcome. It is the 5th day of September 2019. It is in that of, I think, a Thursday. It is opening day of the NFL season as well. My name is Derek Allbets Trades and of the like. Oh, that is within each's own risk and their own reward. All right, so let's take a look at silver on multiple time frames from the longest all the way to the single minute on the quarterly attempt to break out what has been solidly becoming neutral within this downtrend, but getting above the 18 average price. Not much of a change from yesterday, just a very small line going lower. On the monthly chart, not quite up to the $21 level. Barely overextended, and a little bit of a slight move down from the decline so far today. But so far for the month, up 2%, not much. Last month it was up 12.88%. But after having this 18 pretty much go neutral within these two green period days in here, the attempt to revert the trend or really resume the trend to the upside, still decent ways to go. And I really do want to see this get above 21 after it was the resistance of 2016. On the weekly chart, extremely overextended still. And this week is up 2.15%, but a decent sized line now. And that's coming in for today. On the 3-day chart, still overextended. Noticeable red candle down move now, down 3.97%. The day did start today, so it completed. Yesterday's 3-day in a row period finished with a gain of 6.43%. And within the daily, I still have to say it's well overextended still. It's above the 18 average of highs that it has been for many times during this run. We have a lot of this empty space in here. At some point, it's going to have to fill it. So at some point, it's got to break below the 18 average of lows, and that's not necessarily a bearish situation. And amongst the eight, well, we're now having that correctionary phase. And because of this big room, if it does manage to break down, okay, well, where's the support probably going to come in? Well, last previous key level of where it was is around 17 and a quarter. On the 3-hour term time frame, the market has had a major break of the 18. After, and this is really the first one. It had a little bit of a run here. It even had a big one here, but it recaptured its move within the period, and thus keeping the trend alive. But now, when you see something like this on its time frame, you really got to give the benefit of the doubt to filling some of this empty space in here. Granted, this could be support though, and it's going to take some time now in this, at least within this 3-hour chart, to make it above here. You could have a fast volatile move up, but it's unlikely that's going to be the case. If we do manage to rise to 1922, there's a high chance that's resistance. If it's not, well, usually the best it's going to do is move up to 19 and a half previous high, which would still be fine and dandy and everything. On the single hour term, we are overextended to the downside as the price action establishes the level really in here, and it's had its big break. But given the size of this move, it's just in the early stages of being such. But well below the 18 average of lows. On the 15-minute time frame, also overextended given how it's taking a lot of time for the sideways consolidation to work, as you can see, as the 18 is just going down at a large rate of descent. But it's in a correctionary phase amongst the 4-minute. We can also see this period in the last showing strength amongst the 18 average of highs. Definitely band is flattened out, so the downtrend has stopped. It's neutral. Layers of support on this time frame. There's two of them. One comes in about 1860, then this one at 1846. And on the 1 minute there, we can see this 1860 right in here. And within it, we establish this level of resistance, and here retesting it now, attempting to really revert this trend back over, at least fill some of this empty space back in here. And if it gets above in here at 1880, well, by all means, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, when it comes down to it, because of this significant break here, as we look at this on the 3 month, as it's breaking above this level of resistance, obviously that is a significant statement. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to necessarily be that big reversal of trend. But this is its first test here on stuff like the monthly, if it's going to come down with the newly rising 18. And where do we see the 18 average of highs and lows? It's like 1640 and 1520, albeit it's rising. So in the overextended market, how big holding around 16 and change would be up to 17? Well, that'd be huge. But it can have volatile moves on either direction. We have a conflict amongst the multiple trends, and anytime you have some of these moves like we see on the 15, okay, we've had one layer of support. Maybe again, like I mentioned, from where it came from, maybe it has it's next because we already came back to here. So that's the more likely. It's like, okay, let's play this. And if you look at these areas, how can this work for a trader? And at least if you're buying silver, if you've been waiting this day, you could have waited a little bit if you've seen, like, if you were thinking about buying at 9 o'clock, you could have waited um, an hour and got a better price. Just because, whatever on that. But it means by playing the situation, if you're looking for spots to, if you say, okay, I want to sell when I see the weakness in here, maybe at the low 19s, the place to put your buy orders might be at around 1855, which matches this level. Maybe you want to go to this side, 1865, or a safer buy it maybe where we are around now at 1875 or 70. And I say safer because obviously if you get a pierce above, you're going to hit that one. But yeah, if we go down to another leg lower, well, as mentioned before, I would be predicting that if we are unable to hold, we most likely there's a good chance we might strengthen this level of resistance, meaning the next time it comes down there, we might have at least some sort of bounce or correcting or congesting within it for a good amount of periods. And then eventually, of course, if it does go below, well, it seems as if just by looking at it this way, we got the 17. Now, as far as Fibonacci is concerned, there's definitely a key breakout low, and this one gets very, very complicated because I always take precedence over like major all-time or key lows and highs than I do breakout ones. But when the breakout lows are significantly um, after the fact and from a good correction and a noticeable move like this, I kind of usually like to take that. It's just very rare that it's microscopically above it. So which of the I would have to use this as a key level, and at least for the short term run. So we'll see how well these perform, but the low on here is $14.32 on the rounding. The high comes in at 1965 on the round, as it says 647. So therefore, I'll be looking at 1741 at the 61.8 and 1824 on the 76. So 1824 isn't really until that's really saying a deep run into where we came from. And that could be telling us that on the short term, that this move is going to be making a move to this level, and this decline today or even into tomorrow isn't over. And then, of course, getting by that 1741. And here's a must hold 1616, the absolute lowest I want to see it go. 16, whatever, that's a pierce below, or pierce extra is another way I'd like to call it. But yeah, so that's that as far as gold is concerned. Well, it has went down below its key Fibonacci level, and it's down pretty significant as well. Now, it's not actually down as much as silver is. It's got a decent sized picture to its red candle at 2%, but silver's down around 4. And back in these bigger days in here when gold was having these huge runs, so like say for example like July 1st or some of these big run days, I remember gold would go up like 2% and silver would go up like 0.5 or something. And then gold would go down the next day 1.1 and silver was down 0.6, stuff like that. Well, now that silver's been kicking ass, of course it's going to be doing so. But before we go to the ratio, we are still consolidating within this area. We're still holding amongst the 18. And the big one to me is this breakout amongst the 3 month. I'm going to be looking for big support here amongst the 18 when it's ready to happen. And just because it got above it for a while doesn't, I'm not discounting 1522 as not being resistance because, well, so far we haven't seen any clear break. And if this comes back down in here, it's going to be very noticeable after the fact. Yeah, it hit that resistance. It's just that I'm going to be looking for this level in here to be really the must hold area for price action. And along the way, we've got maybe got a little bit of support because it's tough for me to determine if we're gonna have a correction. What's more like how often is it gonna bottom in the area of say 1410 versus the area of 1321? I'm actually curious on the probability rates because I'd be betting it was very rare that if we have a move that goes in that area, that that area would be the low. But I mean, it could be. I mean, technically, you would say, well, maybe it would because it did have this area where we came from here. It would match up with the 18. That could happen at different times as well. But no indication yet to say, okay, it looks strong that we're going to have no resistance here and we're going to 1670. And definitely no clear indication yet, okay, we're getting resistance like we're supposed to. But remember that the key word is where we're supposed to or where we normally do and that we're going to be heading down lower. But oftentimes, when resistance is key at this level, it can just be like a whatever or a nuisance type of resistance. At least if you're trying to sell here and buy back around the 13, or even the 1350 number, maybe the best you get is some sideways consolidation. By the time you realize that this thing is off again, it's like well over 16 or 1700. And then you might get maybe a price correction down to 1430, but that's not low enough for you to buy. So those are the type of nuisance about trying to bet a market like this to go down, because as it comes down to it, the big thing that I can really say to people these days about gold and silver, mainly silver, but they all work together as it is. Back in here, 2018, 17, 16, 14, 13, 12, I mean, all these days, um, you have a lot of time for the most part. I mean, in here there's a little bit of a scare, I'll give you that, but you've had a lot of time. If you would have asked me, like, any time in 2017 and 18, how much time do I have to get precious metals? Um, you probably have a decent amount of time right now. And for the most part, you have. But I don't know how much of a window we have left because it could work out that this resists back down, has some substantial corrections at this lower level within the 18, and maybe we spend 5 more periods, 6 more periods on the quarterly, which would be a year and a half before it even gets out above it. That's one of the possibilities. I don't think so, but you never know. And then silver in here, which is attempting on the quarterly to get out. Monthly is having a lot of, okay, let's go back in here when it was so cheap. Yeah, you're probably going to be able to get it for like under like for cheap. That is under 1920, and of course, most likely cheaper than that for quite some time. And well, now how much time do we have for you to buy it at these levels? Because I was looking at the prices of some of the silver coins and bars and all that type of stuff at a bullion shop that I buy from, and I'm just looking at different things. I just could well, silver was. Let me just bring up the Canadian chart here now. And silver was like $26 Canadian, but in the high 25s for a good portion of yesterday's day. And I remember looking at some of the prices and thinking at some of coins that were just so damn good, if you will. Or when I say damn good, I should say, well, I was used to buying these cheaper coins like the generic rounds, Sunshine Mint, and stuff like that for well under $24 an ounce, or around that maybe. And now I would look at, and then I'd look at that, and I'd see some other nice coins. If it's an okay kind of coin, I don't mind paying 25, 26. I was thinking. And now I'd see some of these other coins like 28, 29. It was like, oh my goodness, that's like so expensive. I don't want to buy that coin for 28. I'd say that a lot. And now I'm looking at some of those cheaper coins selling for over 28. I'm thinking, wow, that's uh, early signs of it being noticeable. But as it comes down to it, I don't know how much time you could get because if this thing doesn't resist much or it does its resistance and it starts its next breakout pattern, there's a chance it can go hog wild. Now, what I hope and what happens is always going to be two different things. What I hope is that this is the start of the breakout and that it does hold any corrections. What I hope is that it has those corrections as we move in time. As I would prefer for it to stay under this range of the 46 mark and even for that matter under the 34 or at and about below 34, 35 for a year or two. But the market's obviously going to do what it's going to do in itself. And of course, the reason for that is flipping cryptos into precious metals. It'll be a little, I get more if the price is at 34, 35 compared to 135 or 235. So that's what I hope for. But the odds of having those big moves happen, the odds of $50 in the next year, the odds of 100, 150 in the next year or 3 years are substantially higher than they were last year or the year before. And for that matter, I could go percentage increase terms. The chances it gains 50% or 100% or whatever big percentage number you choose. The odds of that happening now compared to many of these other times is just a lot higher. I mean, look at all this just hanging in there from July 17th all the way to here. Just you just knew the price of silver was somewhere around $21 Canadian. And then you got a little bit of a deal for a little bit in 2018 here at like $19. And then you had a little bit of a rally, but all it did was come back to where it came from and then retrace from there. And then for earlier parts of the year, silver at like $20. And then you pay a bit, maybe you're paying 22 to 23 for the cheaper ounce rounds and 25, 24 and change for the maples. And well, even just a lot of the kilo stuff. So I pretty much paid 750 Canadian. And what's it, 31, 32,000 or something like that? And I went to Google search and I'm thinking the wrong thing. I did ton the other day. I mean, it's 32.2. Oh, I think it's 32.2. Maybe it's a number around that, but 801. I remember seeing it yesterday at 850, 860. Did not get up to 850, 860. I guess 840 I remember seeing. I thought it was higher than that. Nope. Okay, $800 a kilo for silver. And I looked at it as in, okay, these were 750, but they're going to go higher. And when I look at it this way, well, it's the same thing. I mean, I'm just multiplying it by a number. I myself am transitioning into bigger bars. I've heard people talking bad about the 100 ounce bar, which I don't do. I don't own one, but I don't own enough to own one. I definitely own enough to own a few kilo bars, though, and grounds for that matter. But if you have 5,000, 10,000 ounces of silver, having 100 ounce bars in the mix is probably a good idea. Now, that's not a nut and a must as far as quick storage. Having monster boxes ready to ship out at all times and having it in that way, and whatever, that's all fine and dandy. Of course, you're going to pay more for 500 silver eagles or silver maples in a tube or box or whatever than you would for five 100 ounce bars. But as far as portfolio diversification is concerned, people talk about, oh, it's just so hard to sell and everything. Well, if you're buying a house or if you're buying something big, do you rather be buying it with 1 ounce rounds or bars? And again, if you're throwing the maples and eagles in these big tubes, that's just as good. Uh, but yeah, that's another way of doing it. If you're doing any type of big market trade of any sort, that's where they come in. If you're just doing something small, well, you got your 1 ounces, you got your five, you got your 10, you got your 1 kilos, and then you got your 100 ounces, and I don't think they make them bigger than that. I don't know what the largest size silver bar is. Let me Google that. What are the benefits of 1,000 ounces of silver? I guess it's 1,000. Well, that would be pretty cool to own. Silver Boy bar has roughly 1,000 ounces between 930 and 1,080. How much would that weigh? I can lift that. No, it's pounds. I was looking at. I'm 453 kgs as if. 1,000 troy ounce weighs 68 pounds. That's pretty heavy. And I don't think I've lifted more than 50 pounds. At least I can't remember anything since my 20s. But Anyway, okay, so that. I think there's limited time to get silver at the cheaper prices. Let me bring the American one back on. And as I've stated before, I believe $100 an ounce. Anything under $100, I think you're getting a deal, which is still extremely easy to do today. For getting silver at, you should get it easy under 21 US, and maybe you might be able to get it at 20. So that's well under 100. And I say it in that sense because obviously you're not going to be like, oh, I say it's good to buy a deal at 100. Okay, well, you're going to buy silver maples right now for $70 an ounce. Well, maybe a particular 97 versions or whatever that might be a deal, but no, you're not. You're going to spend maybe 22 or 23, whatever it goes for in US dollars now. And that's well under 100. And I use that 100 number for good calculated reason. And I kind of like how they actually put these numbers in play. Actually, I just changed it. 100, 600, 3,000, 10,000. And you can still see the 45 on here. Yeah, okay, 45 might be overdoing it. But what's an interesting question is, at least for those who believe the gold to silver ratio is going to come anywhere at 10 or lower to 1, especially those at 1 to 1. It is okay if you believe that gold and silver could reach the same prices or go to 10 to 1. Well, what prices would this happen at? For those who believe it's the same, it's not going to be 600, not even close. 3,000, not even close. 10,000, well, that would be subpar for gold the rest of the way. And then we got to talk 10 to 1 ratio. Okay, so if if silver goes to say 238, then gold would go to 2,380. That's not possible, really. I don't think, anyway. Okay, maybe 1,000. 1,000 and 10,000. Maybe that would be possible, but you still probably think that that number is going to go higher. So another way of me saying this is I wouldn't be surprised if four-figure silver is in the future. And when I say future, well, I'm sometime by the end of the 20s, but I thought at the start of the 10s that this would all be unraveled by the end of the 10s. Does anyone else but me call this decade the 10s? But anyway, uh, but no, I mean there's this October, November, December. There's 3.8, 3.9 months left. We're going to move into the next decade with silver firmly below $50 most likely. Although it's possible it reaches it, but it's a very rare probability. And the likelihood again to go up there, I think, is very, very high. So if you're buying it at around here to go up there, to me, a lot of it is buying on breakouts. If you figure, okay, you want to break when I say, okay, I want you to see a clear break. If you break above this level of twice hit resistance, which would be a clear break, would be around 69, 63. Okay, yeah, so if you can get it up to 100, that's buying on the early levels of a break of established resistance. And when we go back to all those sort of deals, and we go back to gold, well, that's what this resistance here was. So at this stage, you buy on the clear break, say 14, 14.30, but at some point as you keep buying, it's going to get really expensive and it's going to be far away from established resistance. And in this case, this is really far away to this level. And the comparison, of course, based on the time frame of silver breaking past 50 and just doubling from that point on. But amongst the gold, it hasn't broken its big established resistance, of course, which is this one here, but that would be the same thing. I've seen it break at all but two, maybe three currencies. The one I didn't check that I was not sure was the Great Britain pound. Uh, okay, well, it did break against the Great Britain pound. Or do I have to? I know what I have to do to look at it. I mean, I'm thinking, how did I do it before? Well, how I did it before was I went like this, And then I would just I'd put the Great Britain pound. So um, what's the symbol for the pound again? Uh, yeah, I had it in there. That's how much I don't know why I just forgot that for a second. But it's gotten above the Great Britain pound. So every one of these charts that I've been showing, and I'm still gonna show the gold to silver ratio too. Don't want to forget that. This one here. So we can see here that we've had a break of this level of resistance. So that's at this stage here. Well, you're in the early stages still of a break of this. This thing can go a lot further. And when we look at this is breaking every level of resistance of every country I looked at except for the U.S. dollar, of course, and I think it was the Swiss franc. Yes, the Swiss franc is at this previous level, but it got by this level of resistance. But another key way of saying that is you break a key level, you can go very, very fast. Let's finish this off within gold to silver ratio. And amongst us on the weekly chart, this is pretty much significant move. Now I put this line in, I think, yesterday. Uh, so we'll see in here. It's so far it's pierced below it. This could be an area of big support, but at least on the day, the gold to silver ratio is up 2% right now. But it also could be resistance at this level because I talked about this yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Maybe the day before. Maybe the day before. Might have been the day before now that I look about it. Because I would have talked about it as it was happening. So 2 days ago, I was talking about how we really didn't support in this area, and it had this move. So now we might resist it, and we might not. And I don't know what the answer to that's going to be. But it's going to take time to adjust to what the message of the market is. There's a good chance that we establish a big level of resistance here, though, moving forward, which is the rest of the day. Alrighty then. So I should actually handle my crypto alert now and finish off this video. I've already made it longer. Again, I made it longer than I want to. 17, 18 minutes was my original plan. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye bye.